So next up, also a new chapter opening up is Lausanne. Welcome, Alexandre Groupman, Ambassador of the Lausanne chapter.
Thank you so much for this intro, Patrick. As it is our first virtual webinar, I want to say a few words about the chapter and actually our intentions, as it is the first event that we have. Also, I want to thank first the panelists that accepted to participate in this. As you're a newcomer, it's always a little bit hard to be immediately involved at the full extent. Therefore, also would love to thank the participants. I see that we had 100 people that registered to the event, so that makes me very happy. And especially I also want to thank Patrick, because it's thanks to Patrick who launched actually the Zurich chapter that actually the whole Switzerland movement started going. So we will take advantage of all the great work that you've done, Patrick, and continue the wave, although we're at the beginning of obviously this journey. Very shortly, what our intentions are with the Lausanne chapter. A lot of things already been said is that we do not want to replace anybody that is locally active already in the ecosystem. What we basically want to do is actually provide a window as well as to the outside worlds coming from the inside. So I think it's very important that we realize that a lot of great ideas not necessarily have always been created in our local ecosystem, but also a lot of ideas and innovations are coming from abroad or something. And we just want to be the window in two directions. So all the great ideas, innovation coming locally, make them visible also for the local ecosystem, but also being a window to the outside world so that they can also expand their ideas to the outside and vice versa. Second point, perhaps, that is also important to note is that sometimes we do not always make the links to the entire ecosystem. I think there we can serve on an international environment to make that visible. Therefore, also I selected, for instance, one person that was not part of the local chapter, but we forget in these times, in these financial crises, that we sometimes have the tendency to forget the financial industry. Today, we're facing, our central banks are printing a lot of money today, and we have no idea. We just tend that things will, for the end, let's continue to move forward. So sometimes helping to make the right connections with all the stakeholders is something that we want to bring. So I'm accompanied by running the chapter by Mark van Uitrecht, who will do a presentation a little bit later on his personal activities as well as his ecosystem and how he sees that evolving in the future. So this is the core of our focus that we will have the coming months. Due to the pandemic, it will mainly virtual. So we will continue to proceed doing virtual events. And obviously, we'll start to bring out also newsletters on a frequent basis. So that's basically, in a nutshell, what you can expect from the chapter. And this actually brings me to invite our first speaker, which is Mr. Jan Roth. He's a delegate for the seniors for the city of Lausanne, and he will provide basically an overview on the strategy of the city towards the seniors, what has been done so far, as well as objectives and initiatives for the future. So I welcome Jan Roth. I would say the floor is yours.
Thank you, Alexandre. Thank you for the invitation. So I will be the only one, I think, to speak in my language. So I will speak in French. Yep. I hope it's okay for you, but my presentation is in English. Perfect. So it will be okay.
And it will be translated or subtitled afterwards, after the conference anyway.
Okay, thank you very much. My English is not so good to speak all in English. Voilà, alors la politique de la ville de Lausanne donc s'inscrit dans le guide pour les aînés de l'OMS, de l'Organisation mondiale de la santé, qui dit donc qu'il faut adapter tous les services de la ville pour les personnes âgées. Un peu d'histoire, donc pour rappeler pour les personnes qui ne sont pas familières avec la Suisse, il y a 3 niveaux d'autorité, en fait, de collectivité publique. Il y a le niveau fédéral, avec la Confédération suisse, les niveaux des cantons. Il y avait le canton de Zurich tout à l'heure. Et donc là, Lausanne est dans le canton de Vaud, ici. Et ensuite, il y a les villes, le niveau municipal. Donc, vous avez ici une présentation historique en fait dans laquelle s'inscrit la politique de la ville de Lausanne, qui part en fait de l'Organisation mondiale de la santé et du réseau Ville Amis des aînés. Ensuite, il y a eu une politique fédérale qui a été définie en 2007, la création du Swiss Network of Age-Friendly Cities, à laquelle appartiennent un certain nombre de villes en Suisse, dont la ville de Zurich, de Berne, Bâle, par exemple. Ensuite, il y a eu une première action, une première décision de la ville de Lausanne en 2013 pour lancer sa politique envers les seniors. Ensuite, le canton de Vaud a lancé lui-même sa politique en 2015 pour les personnes âgées. Et en 2018, il y a eu la concrétisation en fait des actions de la stratégie de la ville de Lausanne envers les seniors et la création du poste de délégué aux seniors que j'occupe depuis le 1er septembre 2019. Quelques chiffres. Donc, en Suisse, on parle de personnes âgées, de seniors, quand les personnes arrivent à l'âge de la retraite, donc elles terminent leur activité professionnelle à l'âge de 64-65 ans. À Lausanne, la population est de 145 000 habitants aujourd'hui, environ 20 000 seniors. Les projections pour 2040, la population totale sera environ 170 000 habitants pour environ 29 000 seniors. Donc, c'est une progression importante. Ça va représenter environ 17% de la population. Mais ce qui est intéressant, c'est la population des seniors âgés de 80 ans et plus qui va surtout augmenter. Au niveau de la politique publique pour les seniors, il y a 4 piliers qui sont définis. Donc, le premier pilier, le but, c'est vraiment que les seniors restent le plus longtemps possible chez eux, restent autonomes. Donc, le canton de Vaud a défini 4 piliers pour la politique de prise en charge. La première repose sur les associations, les bénévoles, les proches aidants. La deuxième, c'est tout ce qui concerne les aides et soins à domicile. Le troisième, ce sont donc les structures d'accompagnement médico-social. C'est par exemple les personnes qui peuvent aller passer la journée dans une structure médicalisée, mais après elles rentrent chez elles. Et puis, le dernier pilier, ce sont les établissements médico-sociaux qui représentent environ 5% de la population vaudoise qui sont seniors, qui sont dans des établissements médico-sociaux. Donc, la stratégie, c'est vraiment de garder le plus longtemps possible les personnes à la maison. Ça, c'est la stratégie du canton à laquelle participe évidemment la ville de Lausanne. Donc, on voit les différents acteurs qui entrent en ligne de compte. Donc, on voit qu'il y a les pharmacies, les hôpitaux, les médecins. Et puis, on va vers la prise en charge plus complète. On arrive vers les logements protégés et les institutions en long séjour dans les établissements médico-sociaux. Au niveau de la ville, donc tout ce qui est la gestion des soins, de la prise en charge plutôt médicale, c'est surtout une prise en charge par le canton. La ville participe par des subventions financières, mais par exemple pour l'aide et les soins à domicile. Mais sinon, dans le niveau concret, on travaille beaucoup dans un tissu d'associations. Donc, j'ai mis quelques associations ici qui existent à Lausanne. Une des plus importantes, c'est Prosenectute, puisqu'elle est au niveau national. Mais il y a des associations plus régionales qui existent. J'aimerais juste mentionner aussi les maisons de quartier, qui sont aussi des relais importants puisque, par rapport à la population senior, et puis une institution qui s'appelle le Senior Lab, qui a été créée récemment pour réfléchir pour les technologies, en fait, l'utilisation des technologies envers les seniors. Donc, c'est tout un réseau dans lequel aujourd'hui je travaille. Au niveau de l'action et de la stratégie de la ville de Lausanne, donc, comme je l'ai dit tout à l'heure, elle repose sur les recommandations sur les 8 thèmes de l'Organisation mondiale de la santé qui sont décrites ici. Donc, nous, on a travaillé avec ces 8 thèmes pour, entre 2016 et 2018, il y a eu des ateliers qui ont été faits avec les associations de seniors, avec des spécialistes, avec des partenaires, des seniors. En parallèle, les services de l'administration ont regardé toutes leurs prestations, ont passé en revue toutes leurs prestations pour voir ce qui existait pour les seniors. Donc, au sein de l'administration, il y avait déjà environ 60 mesures qui existaient spécifiquement pour les seniors. Et puis, dans les ateliers, il y a eu 24 propositions qui sont ressorties de la démarche participative. Tout ça a fait l'objet d'une évaluation et qui a abouti en 2018 par une décision de la municipalité qui se définit en 31 mesures et que je commence en fait à mettre en application depuis que j'ai été nommé en 2019. Voici quelques-unes des actions sur lesquelles nous sommes en train de travailler. Je vais peut-être en prendre une ou deux. Il y a par exemple tout ce qui concerne le logement. On commence à réfléchir sur les échanges d'appartements puisque les seniors ont peut-être vécu avec leur famille dans des grands appartements. Après, ils deviennent trop grands et il y a peut-être l'idée de faire des échanges avec des familles qui auraient besoin d'appartements plus grands. Nous avons lancé en fait cette année un projet avec Prosenectute et l'UBS, donc qui est une des banques en Suisse, dans un quartier de Lausanne pour réfléchir à comment adapter les logements existants ou construire des nouveaux logements qui soient dans lesquels les seniors peuvent vivre le plus longtemps possible. Nous travaillons aussi, je ne vais pas tout décrire les actions qui sont ici sur la présentation, mais peut-être parler aussi de l'espace public. C'est un des domaines sur lesquels on travaille également, à la fois l'utilisation de l'espace public comme moyen de faire, que les seniors fassent de l'activité physique, c'est-à-dire favoriser les déplacements à pied, d'éviter les barrières architecturales. Et puis, c'est aussi développer avec le service des sports des actions, des prestations de sport en ville, dans les parcs, vers les places de jeux, etc. Il y a aussi un des points sur lesquels on travaille, c'est l'image des seniors. On l'a vu ici avec le confinement. On a dit qu'il fallait que c'était les seniors qui étaient le plus vulnérables. Et du coup, il y a eu des tensions aussi avec la population, les jeunes qui disaient que c'était un peu la faute des seniors, si on devait rester chez soi. Donc, il faut qu'on travaille sur l'image des seniors. Et souvent, on parle des seniors comme si c'était un groupe unique, alors qu'en fait, il y a autant de seniors que de personnes qui existent. Ils ont chacun leur histoire. Ce n'est pas un groupe uniforme. Et ça, c'est quelque chose qu'on a fortement ressenti ces derniers mois, que les seniors ne voulaient pas être pris comme un seul ensemble uniforme. Donc, je le disais tout à l'heure, on intègre aussi les seniors dans la planification de l'urbanisme. On fait des promenades diagnostiques, donc on prend un groupe et on se balade dans un quartier et ils nous disent ce qui va pas, ce qu'il faudrait améliorer. Donc, j'ai parlé des barrières architecturales. Et puis, il y a aussi la promotion du bénévolat pour que les seniors, en fait, garder les seniors dans le tissu associatif et qui se sentent toujours utiles et appartenir à la collectivité publique. Voilà quelques axes et quelques exemples de la politique de la ville de Lausanne en faveur des seniors.
Merci beaucoup, Yann. C'était très, très intéressant de la perspective de la part de la ville. Donc, merci beaucoup. On a un prochain témoignage. Il s'agit de Anne-Yann. I'm sorry, I now switch myself to French. I don't know whether I do that automatically. My apologies for that. So our next speaker is Mr. Anne Jean. She is president of RIL, which is the most established association focused on senior habitats in our French-speaking region of Switzerland. And she will talk about, obviously, their activities, but also in which ecosystem they are operating and where the opportunities lie. So Anne-Jan, the floor is yours.
So Avril is an association, a non-profit organization, which is working around the question of housing and adaptation of housing for the seniors. So we were in contact with Lausanne, for example, for the project Jan Rod told about, because we know that housing is the most important thing for a senior. It's housing is important with santé, healthness, social life, assistance. It's have to do with finance. So it's in the center of the most needs of human people. Avril is an observatoire permanent. That means we are neutral. We want to connect and collect information and connect people and give information to people and their families what they can do to stay home, to stay where they live. The longer is it possible, as Jan Rod said, this is the most important thing, or to adapt the apartment where they are, or to help find an adapted house or apartment. So we are like guides in this business. And what we do, we communicate a lot to seniors and families. We are volunteers and we give information. We have a blog in journal Le Temps, which is very important in the French part of Switzerland. Le Temps is a very good newspaper, so it's very good. We have there the opportunity to say interesting thing that we are sponsored from Groupe Mutuel. This is insurance, so it's really, we see that everybody is concerned. We collaborate to develop solution adapted to seniors, and we are we accompany projects and with architect a lot or cities. We collect a lot of information and we connect all those people. Like today, it's very important, this net work and connect and collect things. We launched it last year for the 20th anniversary platform, web platform, which is seniorimo.ch. There are not so many apartments there, but the aim is to group all the apartment and houses which are adapted to seniors in the French part of Switzerland. It's very important to, it's very difficult to motivate people and to put their apartment, because the apartment are busy, or they have lists from people waiting to have such an apartment. So they say, it's not, I don't need that. I don't want to be on that platform because I have no needs. And that's a big challenge for us, because we are explaining that people, when they want to move and they are quite old, it's a question of time. You don't decide to move like when you are 30 or 40 and you decide to move in 3 months. When you get older, you need time to decide to move, and it's good for families and people to see the opportunity they have. And if the apartment are busy, it's not important, because it helps the person to project himself in the future. So that is the beginning of a good story, I think. So we are B2B and B2C. So we work with cities and enterprise working in the same business, if I may say. And we B2C because people can call us and ask for advice, and we give it to them. So I thank you for your attention, and give the word back to Alexandre.
Thank you so much, Anne, for your very interesting testimony. The next guest is Mr. Mark van Utrecht. He's the founder of Physio Home Care, and he will explain to us their activities, as well as in which ecosystem they are currently operating and what are the challenges moving forwards. So welcome, Mark.
Hello to everybody. My name is Mark van Utrecht, founder and CEO of Physio Home Care, a Swiss-based company near Lausanne, mainly focused on the senior frailty and home support. Maybe we can start with just the first slide, Alexandre.
Yeah, sorry for that.
Thanks a lot. Many thanks. So, excuse me, just... Okay, perfect. So maybe we can set the next slide, please, Alexandre.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot. Well, so Physio Home Care is a regionalized, centralized, and coordinated home-based rehabilitation provider. Our offer concerns a population base of around 140,000 people of more than 65 years old, talking about the canton of Vaud. Since 2017, we provided around 18,000 home-based rehabilitation sessions. And I would say from the beginning of this year, the trend is heading to more than 13,000 yearly sessions, with 700 new patients each year. So we can see that we have a strong demand. It's okay? Still hearing me?
Yeah, perfect. Go ahead.
Very good. So talking about this trend, and as we are now mastering the model, we are planning expansion in Switzerland and probably in France, Belgium, Spain next year. But mainly on the next model, I would say Physio Home Care V2. So you can set the next slide, please, Alexandre. Yeah. Talking about expansion, we started working on a strategy to improve overall home-based patient experience, from rehabilitation to home support. In November 2019, we launched a simple app called Up to get a proprietary and secure channel to link patients, caregivers, and care providers. The first service we made available was an access to telerehabilitation in March 2020, as COVID was emerging. And then in the following month, through our backend, we were able to set personalized home support services. And this is crucial because this app is a kind of distribution channel to bring to the patients, and especially isolated patients, any useful services. Maybe if you can go just backwards, then, to the previous slide.
This one, sorry.
Thanks, very good. So, as I said just before, we started using and providing a telehab service in March. From that point, we focused all efforts on developing and integrating the professional rehabilitation platform into app. So the app I just told before. And the aim was to provide evidence-based practice rehabilitation programs and protocols, followed by the patients under our therapist supervision. Mainly, we wanted to give an instant and easy access to rehabilitation and improve patient safety too. So still hearing me? It's okay?
Yeah, I'm going back to your last one
Yeah,
then.
very good. So from now, and this is what we are going to do at the end of this month, and then the following month, is to launch our complete web-based solutions in Switzerland, and then in France in January normally. And we will normally also start a clinical trial around quality of life and social impact with patients using telerehabilitation. This should be done around, we should start this in March of the next year. So this was a really short presentation, but I tried to keep things simple and short. I hope everything was clear.
Perfect. No, crystal clear. Thank you very much, Mark, for your testimony. So our next guest is a little bit separate one, because normally if we go into a local senior association, we normally not always make the link with the finance industry, and that's why I specifically asked Ira to join us in this discussion. As we believe there is also a great opportunity for perhaps Switzerland as a country to be a major stakeholder then towards the rest of the world. And that's why I invited Ira Sobel to give her testimony. Ira Sobel is the founder of fintech-olderadults.com, formerly a CPA in KPMG, and just recently has received her PhD from Tel Aviv University, focusing on the economic and social impacts of aging. I would say, Ira, the floor is yours.
Okay, hello everyone. Can you hear me? And do you see the slides?
Excellent.
Yeah, great. So you got here. Okay, so thank you for having me here. Although I'm in Tel Aviv and not in Switzerland, half of me is Swiss, so it's always nice to see these landscapes behind you. I would like to talk in this couple of minutes on the necessity of adapted finance for the aging in a fast evolving demographic context. But more specifically, I would like to share with you my research in the last year, which led to the establishment of fintech-for-olderadults.com. This is an emerging ecosystem that is concentrating on building trust or a new contract between financial institutions and aging societies. So why do we need a fintech for the aging ecosystem? And I think we are in an important point of time that this ecosystem is emerging because of several drivers that are all happening together at the same time. First of all, changes in regulations. There are regulations in financial institutions today are more consumer-centric, and they would like to give protection to vulnerable customers, including older adults. But of course, we have the demographic context that we all know and we are all aware about. But the trend in aging in place will also need to give answers to how people who are going to stay longer at home will manage their finance, but also will finance their longevity. At the same time, a third driver for this emerging ecosystem is what we call open banking, or financial technologies, insurtech, digital banks that are coming day after day, both in Europe and also here in Israel, but starting also in the US. So whilst we have fintech and insurtech and digital banks coming up, the addressing older adults is going to be much easier than before. But also after amid the pandemic, and because countries gave so much money to the market in order to protect unemployment, so we will see in the short term, I assume, that public support is going to decrease more and more. So taking all together these four drivers, I think that fintech for aging ecosystem is not starting to flourish at the moment. We will see more of it in the future. Starting from January, I made dozens of interviews with all these fintech financial technology solutions that are trying to answer many questions related to financing of aging. So one question that I asking to, they're striving to tackle is, how are we going to finance longevity? How are we going to monitor and manage finance while aging in place or moving to home care? How are we going financially to navigate life course transitions, like widowhood, like retirement, like changing health? How are we going to utilize the insurance rights? And how will we look at the future of living? Is it going to be co-living, or are we going indeed to stay at home? Or if we move to home care, what are the new financial models that home care will have to give in order for older adults to move there? How can we plan our trust and wills from a legal aspect? And how are we going to plan for retirement and use our accumulated human capital that nobody, or often nobody, wants to hire in the last stage of the life course? So taking all together this very interesting solutions for financing longevity and taking care of all the finances, I think I categorize them into three solutions, into three categories. One is what I call building trust. The second is navigating life course transitions. And the third is financing longevity. So when we're talking about building trust, I mean that this is the building block of any digital solutions for older adults and their caregivers. This is finding a technological plausible solution to mitigate the risk of fraud and scams, which is a very, very severe phenomenon all over the world. But sometimes it's overlooked. The second group of digital solutions is helping us to navigate life course transitions, like planning for retirement, estate planning, and preservation of wealth. But I think more interesting is the group of technologies that strive to help us in financing longevity, like establishing new asset class as longevity risk, but also human capital, and the largest market is reverse mortgage, which is becoming more and more prevalent, especially in the US. So what we do in fintech for older adults, we help organizations by using a user-centric approach to research on their aging customers. What are their needs? We are trying to define what are their needs. How can financial institutions approach these customers, which lies on the tension between fragility and vulnerability on one hand, but also can generate growth for financial institutions on the other hand. We help home care facilities to design new financial models for the future. We can also help impact accelerators to define what are the startups that the accelerator would like to approach. So by researching, defining, designing, investing, we can help financial institutions, but also digital banks and fintechs to approach the needs of older adults and generate their financial resilience. I think this can be a very nice opportunity for cooperation between Israel, the startup nation, and Switzerland. And for more information, you are always invited to write and send me a message through LinkedIn or by email. Thank you again very much for having me here.
Thank you so much, Ira, for this testimony. And I have to re-emphasize this again. Swiss legislation as well as ecosystem might be is in an ideal situation to contribute a lot to the global finance of this. So therefore, I cannot emphasize this enough, but people look at this this opportunity. And it's actually also a little bit linked to my next subject, which is initiative that an association that I'm part of just recently launched. And that's Senior Boulevard TV. So a little bit more than a month ago, we launched actually a TV channel with one specific purpose, is actually linking an unprecedented opportunity that today we are globally facing. Today, we all know that there is a senior housing deficit being present in most countries around the world. But at the same time, since COVID, another challenge has risen, and that's basically the savior of our hospitality industry. Many hotels in many countries are today facing an unprecedented fight for survival, unless something is undertaken. And we actually has been working already for quite a long time in the industry and working together with this. We see this also as a tremendous opportunity to reach out to them and basically find a partnership for collaboration. And that's what Senior Boulevard TV is all about. We unfortunately are not capable to go to European conferences and having broad discussions about it, but we basically need to educate the hospitality industry what is basically the senior housing deficit and the opposite around. And not only from a real estate perspective, but also from an operations perspective. Today, the hospitality industry has a lot of things to bring towards the senior housing deficit, whether it is for permanent residences or for temporary residences. And this is exactly what we want to highlight in this on this TV channel. So what we can expect from this TV channel is that it will elaborate on all the different elements of senior housing deficit as well as hospitality crisis, and what are basically the drivers behind that, and share thoughts and expertise so that people can basically share expertise around that, but also identify the opportunities. So I welcome everybody to that has a specific interest to one of those industries to become a member of the platform, and on a weekly basis, there will be new videos, new interviews appearing on this global topic. And having had this last presentation, I think that's where we can actually now officially also announce that Lausanne chapter has been launched. Patrick, so I don't know if you have this bell going or just this part.
Sure. So I declare the Lausanne chapter officially launched. Oh,
excellent.
Many thanks, Alexandra and the Lausanne chapter. Really great that we have 2 chapters open today, and I'm looking forward to collaborate with all the interesting initiatives coming up. So we have the Alps update. We still have one presentation from the Alps. We go to south of Germany, to the valley, to the medical valley, and I would like to welcome Johanna Mattes. Welcome.
Hello, thank you very much. Yeah, hello everybody. I will just share my screen. Okay. So, can you see it?
Yes, perfect. Yeah.
Okay. So, yes, as Patrick already announced, I'm from a valley. It's called Medical Valley, and it's a cluster in the field of medical technology and healthcare, and the cluster management is based in Erlangen. That's near Nuremberg. I think Nuremberg maybe is better known than Erlangen. And yeah, our job as a cluster management mainly is to bring different partners together, for example, scientists, people from industry, startups, and healthcare professionals and others to accelerate innovation in healthcare. You can see this here on our website. I have not prepared any slides because I think all the information I need are on the website. So maybe also the links to the website can later be shared in the chat. And yeah, you see we have different services, for example, for startups, just to give you an impression, like advice, incubator space, venture capital, etc., etc. And yeah, but we are not also together with our partners participating in different projects. And one project I myself work on is called DigiDem Bavaria, a digital dementia registry de Bavaria. It's the long term. And in this project, together with the local university and the university hospital, we are setting up a dementia registry in Bavaria to get a better understanding of the long-term cause of dementia. And on the other hand, we are also developing a platform that offers digital services for people with dementia, as well as for caring relatives, volunteers, and interested citizens. And this is what I want to talk about now, because I think from what I heard so far, there might be some people in the audience for whom our open innovation contest might be interesting. And yeah, because we started an open innovation contest to look for these digital solutions for those groups I mentioned. For example, apps for caregiving relatives of people with dementia and things like that. And those digital solutions shall become part of our platform. And of course, in the contest, we also provide a prize money for the best solutions and some other benefits. You can find everything in detail here on our website, also in German and below in English. The submissions can also be handed in German or English. And I have to say that the contest already ends on November 15th, which is Sunday. But I think it's not too extensive to participate. Here I give you a short impression of the platform or the portal where you hand in your submissions, and it's not so much information you have to type in. So I think it's possible to participate if you have a digital solution. And yeah, that's what I wanted to say. Just a short talk, especially about our open innovation contest. And I would be very happy if some of you participate in the contest. And of course, I wish you luck. And thank you so far for your attention and for the opportunity, of course, to present here today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Johanna Mattes. Greetings to Erlangen. And I hope the startups will meet the deadline, join the call, and maybe we hear another update from the Digital Valley next time or in another meeting. Thanks a lot, Johanna.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So then we are terribly late and we cannot do the discussion round so far. And let me just thank again all the panelists, all the participants for taking the time. I think Heidi would be pleased with the innovation that's coming up. Yeah. And in that spirit,
can I perhaps
yes,
perhaps one thing? So as I mentioned in the beginning, or as we mentioned in the beginning, is that we will publish this video afterwards, and there is one presentation that we still need to add, so we'll edit that. what I propose to organize to all the participants, when we send this out, we will automatically generate a chat session. And that the questions that are still open or that were still open, we'll invite everybody to ask them during that chat session when we publish the video, so that people can have still their answers that they were looking for, in order to compensate for the fact that we were running late and were incapable of doing the Q&A. That's perhaps something I wanted to add.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And also for the technical support, Alexandra. You made it happen. So, hey, have a good day and see you.